Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Dr. Bharti's Ophthalmology Tutorials. Today we will continue with the myopia. In the previous video we had discussed about the definition of the myopia, how to draw the optical diagram of the myopia, what are the optics involved in myopia and the various mechanisms involved to develop the myopia, as well as we discussed about the congenital myopia and the developmental myopia. This myopia, or for that matter any of these emmetropias, myopia, hypermetropia or the astigmatism can be asked for your main question as well as the short notes question. But the next type of myopia which I am going to discuss today, that is the pathological myopia, itself can be asked for short notes, and even sometimes the fundal changes in the pathological myopia itself is asked for short note question. So I thought of making separate video for this pathological myopia, acquired myopia and the treatment options involved in the myopia. So without much delay, let's begin our video. So this pathological myopia is also called as the progressive myopia and also called as degenerative myopia. Okay. So if you want to define this pathological myopia, the rapidly progressive high myopia with the degenerative changes in the fundus. So that is the definition of this pathological myopia. So if you look at the characteristics of this pathological myopia, it usually starts in a very early adult life. The prevalence is about 2 to 3% of the general population is affected by this pathological myopia. Myopia will be of more than 6 diopters and heredity plays a role here with either sex-linked inheritance or with the autosomal recessive inheritance. So what is the cause for this pathological myopia? It is usually secondary to the increased axial length. So that is the mechanism of development of pathological myopia. So why there is such an increase in the axial length of these patients? The factors which are contributed for that are, one is the hereditary factor and the second is the general growth process. Okay. So because of these two factors, there is increase in the axial length leading to the pathological myopia. So let's the first cause, that is the hereditary factor as a cause for this pathological myopia. So there are so many things which support the hereditary cause, like it runs in the families, it's more common in the Chinese and the Japanese, so which will also support the theory of the hereditary. So what happens here is, in these patients there is growth of retina. Okay. So here first there is large growth of the retina and we have the sclera outside this choroid which has the capacity to distend because of its collagen fibers. So the sclera will also distend according to the retinal growth, but choroid which is there in between is not stretchable. So this choroid undergoes degeneration. So first there is choroidal degeneration. Because of this choroidal degeneration, the nutritional supply of the retina is hampered. So there is progressive retinal degeneration as well and the vitreous degeneration also. So this is how the pathological myopia progresses. Okay. So first there is distension of the retina or the growth of the retina. There is corresponding distension of the sclera, but the choroid will not stretch, leading to choroidal degeneration, which will further lead to retinal degenerations as well as the vitreous degenerations. The next factor involved in the pathogenesis of this pathological myopia, that is general growth factors, but this plays a very minor role. Usually the lengthening of the posterior segment of the eyeball commences whenever there is a growth spurt. Okay, and this growth continues till there is general growth of the individual. So it stops when the general growth of the patient is stopped. Okay, so till then there is lengthening of this posterior segment. During this period of growth, if the individual suffers from any malnutrition or endocrinological disorders or any debilitating disease, this posterior segment grows disproportionately, leading to the pathological myopia. So these are the two factors which play a very important role in the pathogenesis of this pathological and progressive myopia. One is the hereditary factor with the increase in the length of the retina. The second is the growth process. Okay. So what are the symptoms of this pathological myopia? So you had seen in the previous video, like in case of developmental myopia, where the degree or the amount of myopia is very less, the patient usually suffers from the astigmatic symptoms. But here, where degree of myopia is more, like more than -6 diopters, the patient will obviously suffer from decreased vision. So that is the first symptom, that is decreased vision. Next, they can experience this musca valletans, that is nothing but see the black spots in the field of vision. The mosquito-like things are the black spot in the field of vision. Okay, that is because of the degeneration of the vitreous which is happening in the pathological myopia. And sometimes whenever this myopia has progressed more, because of the degeneration of the retinal layers also, the patient can suffer from the night blindness. So these are the symptoms of pathological myopia. So what are the signs of this pathological myopia? As I have already told, there is decreased vision. So when you check for the visual acuity, the vision is grossly diminished, and when you do the refraction, the myopia will be more than -6 diopters, and it usually progresses to the tune of 4 diopters per year. So by the end of 20 or 30 years, a patient may have up to 20 diopters of myopia, even sometimes more than that. So that is the degree of myopia in these pathological myopic patients. And when you look at the eye, the eyeball are little prominent as was seen in the developmental myopia. So there is prominent eyeballs, okay, the cornea is little large, AC can be deep, even the pupillary diameter is more and the sluggishly reacting pupils are seen. So these are the anterior segment findings in these pathological myopic patients. If you go to the posterior segment findings, which are very important, that is the fundal findings. So these fundus changes can be explained under these headings. The first is the optic disc changes, which you should see. The next is degenerative changes in the retina and the choroid. The posterior cephaloma formation. Then there is degenerative changes in the vitreous. So I will explain each one in detail now. When you examine the optic disc, you will find a very large optic disc with a temporal pallor, and there is something called as temporal crescent, which is seen in these myopic patients. This temporal crescent is because there is stretching of retina and the choroid, but the posterior sclera is seen through when you are doing the fundus examination. That is the reason for your temporal crescent. Sometimes you will also see what is known as the supertraction crescent on the medial side or the nasal side of this optic disc. That is because of the bending of these optic nerve fibers obliquely, which is shown in this figure. So it appears as if the retina is overlapping on the nasal side of the optic disc margin. That is called a supertraction crescent. So in the optic disc, we have very large optic disc with a temporal pallor with a temporal crescent, as well as the supertraction crescent on the nasal side of the optic disc. The next, the degenerative changes which are seen in the retina and the choroid. The first one is the tigroid appearance. That is, when you do the fundus examination, it gives the tigroid appearance. Because of the thinned out retina, the underlying choroidal vessels will show up, leading to this tigroid appearance of the retina. Then as the disease progresses, there can be choroidal atrophy, that is, the choroid undergoes atrophic changes. So when you examine the retina, you will see whitish patches with the heaped up pigmentary changes around it. So these are the changes or features suggestive of the choroidal atrophy. Then we have what is known as posterior fuchs spots, which are seen in the macular area. So these are nothing but the dark red patches which are seen near the macula because of subretinal neovascularization as well as the choroidal hemorrhages. Even there can be cystoid degenerations in the periphery. There can be even total retinal atrophy sometimes. The lattice degenerations and the snake tract degenerations are also seen in the periphery with the retinal break or the retinal tear and even the retinal detachment. So these are the changes in the retina and the choroid. Then the third fundal change what we see in the pathological myopia is the posterior cephaloma formation. That is nothing but the ectasia of the sclera with the incarceration of the uveal tissue underneath the ectatic sclera. That is nothing but posterior cephaloma, which can also be seen in this pathological myopia. The last fundal change which we appreciate in these myopic patients is the degeneration of the vitreous, which is in the form of either vitreous liquefaction or vitreous opacities, or even there can be posterior vitreous detachment, which is seen as the V's reflex or the V's ring. So these are the fundal changes seen in pathological myopia. Let me recap once again. The fundal changes we have the optic disc changes, degenerative changes in the retina and the choroid, posterior cephaloma formation, and the degenerative changes in the vitreous. And when you do the visual field examination in these pathological myopic patients, there can be contraction of the visual field or even there is formation of the ring scotoma. So these are the visual field changes which you observe. And when you do the ERG or the electroretinogram, it is usually subnormal because of the chorioretinal atrophic changes. So when you write the signs, start from the visual acuity, then complete the anterior segment findings, go to the fundus findings, and then the visual field changes and the ERG changes. Coming to the complications of this pathological myopia, these patients can have the retinal tears or the retinal detachment. They can have the hemorrhages in the retina, that is retinal hemorrhages or the choroidal hemorrhages, even that can seep into the vitreous, leading to the vitreous hemorrhage. Sometimes there is complicated cataract because the metabolism of the lens is altered. Can be associated POAG in these patients, that is primary open-angle glaucoma in these patients of high myopia. Because of all these degenerative changes and the complications associated with this pathological myopia, the prognosis is little guarded in these patients. So you should advise or counsel these patients about their future jobs which they want to opt for, because there can be deterioration in the vision as the age progresses. A proper counseling is needed for these pathological myopic patients, and even the counseling for the marriage is also important. So it is advised to avoid the marriage between the two patients of pathological myopia. It doesn't apply to the simple or the developmental myopia, but in the pathological myopia, this care has to be taken. So coming to the last part of this clinical classification of the myopia, that is the acquired type of myopia. So So these are all the various causes of this acquired myopia. The first one is index myopia, which I have already explained. That is because of the changes in the nucleus, that is nuclear sclerosis, because of the incipient cataract. These patients can go into the myopic changes. And in diabetic patients, because of change in the refractive index of the lens, the patient can go into myopia. This curvature myopia, because of increased curvature of the cornea of the lens, which I have explained. The positional myopia, because of anterior displacement of this lens. The consecutive myopia, because of overcorrection of this hypermetropia following surgery, or because of overcorrection when you place the PC eyeball. Okay, so this is nothing but the consecutive myopia. The pseudomyopia, because of excessive accommodation. So all these I have explained in my previous video, that is index, curvatural, positional, as well as the pseudomyopia. And sometimes it is drug induced, like in case of cholinergic drugs like pilocarpine, or even the steroids can also lead to the myopic changes, and use of sulfonamides. All these can lead to the myopic changes. The next thing is the treatment of these myopic patients. Before going to the treatment, this myopia can be graded as mild, moderate and severe depending upon the degree of myopia as it is shown. So the first and the most important treatment aspect is the optical treatment, usually done either using the spectacles or the contact lens. Please do mention which type of lenses are used in the treatment of myopia. Okay, so that is nothing but concave lenses. Concave lenses are used in treatment of these myopic patients. So this optical treatment is done either with the spectacles or the contact lens, okay, depending upon the degree of myopia. That is, if the myopia is less than 6 diopters and the patient is less than 8 years of age, then you can give the full correction and encourage them to wear the glasses throughout the day. Though they tell that only my distant vision is hampered, my near vision is very good, but you should encourage them to wear it throughout the day, both for distant and the near vision, to encourage the accommodation and the convergence reflex to get established. Okay, so thereby so many symptoms of this myopia are treated. And when it comes to the young patients in the age group of 8 to 30 years, never overcorrect these patients, since these patients prefer the overcorrected prescription. Since the contrast which is present in the Sneller's chart is appreciated better with the overcorrection, they feel that that is the correction they need. Actually, they may need little lesser correction only. So ask the patient whether the letters are seen more darker and they are smaller in size, or it is more clear. If it is more clear, yes, they need little more correction, but if they are seeing it as little darker and smaller, means you are overcorrecting them. And when it comes to more than 30 years age group, so these patients of 30 years will not accept the complete correction if the myopia is more than -3 diopters, if they have not used the glasses since childhood. So try to give little lesser number initially and then try to progressively increase the glass number. And one thing you have to remember is, whenever you are giving the correction for the high myopia, you should always concentrate on the near vision. You should see that the near vision is not hampered with your full distant correction. So don't compromise the near vision. So you can compromise the distant vision to some extent, but the near vision has to be good, because this group is more actively involved in the education of the studies. Okay, but when it comes to the next group, that is the patients having more than 6 diopters of myopia, these patients also will not usually tolerate the full correction. So start by giving the lesser amount of correction initially and then progressively increase the correction number. Again, concentrate on the near vision so that the near vision is not hampered. This is about the optical treatment of these myopic patients. The refractive surgeries which are involved in myopia will be discussed in the separate video, which will be covering the refractive surgeries for all, that is myopia, hypermetropia and the astigmatism. The next treatment is usually the dietary changes which is needed, like give plenty of vitamin A supplements, the food which is rich in vitamin A supplement. The next is something called as the visual hygiene. That is nothing but the proper position of the patient has to be stressed, the illumination of the reading material has to be good, and even the print size of the reading material has to be good. All this will improve the reading ability of the child. Then if the myopia is very high and the child is having very low vision, you can go for the low visual aids also. So this is all about the myopia in the part 2, that is pathological myopia, acquired myopia and the treatment options. In the treatment I have discussed about the optical treatment as well as other treatment like the dietary supplements, visual hygiene. So hope this video on myopia is useful to all of you. If you like my videos, please do subscribe to my channel, press the bell icon for further notifications. Please do like and share my videos and leave your valuable comments. Thank you so much.